We have not even arrived at opening day, and we very well may have the strangest story of this Phillies season. I want to break down the latest with this Phillies team, why there's an interesting off-the-field story that Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thomson, John Middleton, and the rest of the front office personnel are likely a little bit more focused on than baseball right now. There was something that popped across the timeline, caught my eye, that really stood out from a Phillies perspective that I do want to dive into here. And what exactly this was per front office sports here, that the Phillies are suing an analytics company for allegedly breaching their exclusivity contract by selling parts of their platform to other teams. Philadelphia says the platform reaching other teams could cause, quote, irreparable harm to its front office competitive advantage. Now, a lot going on here, and this is something that I'm not well versed in speaking on a ton. I do want to dive into exactly what has been reported. There's a couple different sources running with this, so I do want to provide the context from two different outlets here, but want to lay out the whole story. And honestly, I can't believe we were talking about this soon to opening day, but I did think this was interesting enough to make a video about and acknowledge. So to dive into the specifics of it, I do want to start off first off from Front Office Sports, which writes, the Philadelphia Phillies are suing an analytics company and its owner over an alleged contract breach the team claims aids its divisional rivals. The team filed a lawsuit on Friday against Zealous Analytics and its parent company Teamworks Innovations, claiming they are attempting to sell components of their platform to teams within their division, violating the agreement they had with the Phillies and in effect undermining its competitive advantage. The Phillies are seeking a temporary restraining order that would block any deal that would violate the team's agreement with the firm to sell to just one team in each of Major League Baseball's 6 divisions, in addition to unspecified compensatory damages for breach of contract. Quote, the harm suffered by the Phillies cannot be adequately remedied by monetary damages alone, the lawsuit says. The competitive advantage secured through the division's exclusivity agreement and 6-team limitation is unique and cannot be precisely quantified. So a lot going on here, a lot of fancy words, a lot of legal terms, but the gist of it is here. Front offices are more innovative than ever. That they're constantly looking for whatever that competitive advantage can be, whatever asset or, unique thought process they can lean on that does give them a different window into viewing the sport than other teams around the league. And whatever that may be for the Phillies specifically, it does seem like this analytics program is something they have leaned on. Now, I did hop on their website to try and see what they were about a little bit, and it's tough to get a direct answer. They basically flex everything. They do player evaluations, they do financial evaluations, they do it all. That's from an organizational standpoint. What appears to be the case here is the Phillies basically had an exclusive agreement that is just going to be them. And what, in this business plan from this specific model here, is they did have it sanctioned out to they can do one per division. It's sort of the model that they did want to be exclusive, but it does seem like they're changing it too. Now, before I dive deeper in my interpretation of things, I'm going to continue on with this reporting here, and the article states the Phillies claim they had a, quote, division exclusive license, which prevented Zealous from making deals with other teams in the NL East and limited them to 6 total among MLB teams, 1 per division. In the lawsuit, the Phillies say Zealous and Teamworks tried to change the exclusivity rights to their agreement in 2024 in a proposal that would allow companies to sell individual components of the Titan to all 30 teams, including products geared toward roster and game intelligence. In exchange, the Phillies would give up their exclusivity with Titan for a price discount. The Phillies declined and raised concerns about losing their exclusivity to Titan while doing so, the lawsuit states. The team alleges that without court intervention, Zealous and Teamworks will continue to try and get around their exclusivity agreement by selling parts of its platform to other teams, including its divisional foes, causing, quote, irreparable harm to the front office's competitive advantage. The Phillies did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Philip Berger, who is representing the team in the case, declined to comment. An attorney for Teamworks and Zealous did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So the biggest thing here is this is going to be fought by the big dogs, the legal departments. Whoever has deeper pockets will essentially win that. And while the Phillies are in a good spot here, don't know anything about this specific organization or company that they're dealing with against here. But sort of the root of this is the Phillies had vested interest in this being their guy, essentially. That this analytics department was theirs, that only for theirs to use, and in their exclusivity agreement, which of course, it's not like I have that legal paperwork in front of me where I honestly could make heads or tails of it if I did. It was believed that they could only work with the Phillies from an NL East perspective. Now, Who knows what services they're particularly providing here? We are talking about big ticket money, over $1 million for this specific type of contract here. So a lot that does go into it that I'm sure it's pretty advanced, but pretty fascinating that this is popping up at this time of year. Now, I did want to give another perspective on it, and frankly, I think I could make the case that this article summed it up a little better. So to give their full layout here, it writes, the Phillies describe Titan as as crucial to gaining a competitive advantage over their opponents. The platform informs Phillies decision makers about a wide range of baseball operations decisions, including for, quote, player evaluations, prospective assessment, trade analysis, roster construction, asset valuation, and on-field strategy. The Phillies stress, quote, exclusive access to these analytical tools play an instrumental role in cultivating strategies for player acquisitions, roster management choices, and maximizing players' performances. As described in the complaint, Titan reflects separate but integrated components, including data engine, roster intelligence, and game intelligence. The origin of the dispute began last month when the Phillies exercised a contractual option to extend the agreement to the 2025 season. As the Phillies tell it, the defendants then try to, quote, alter the scope of the exclusivity provision by proposing they could sell individual Titan components to more teams, including potentially other NL East teams, than the agreed upon restriction for Titan. The Phillies maintain no component should be sold beyond the restrictions. To do so, the Phillies argue would, quote, effectively undermine the fundamental purpose of the exclusivity clause, quote, for which the Phillies paid a substantial premium. So the root of this here is the Phillies did have an option, essentially a player option. If you want to look at it from an actual on-field perspective here, it would be like if their contract went up and it said, do I want to come back for this set dollar amount or not next year? And the Phillies said, yes, we want to stick with Titan. We want to stick with this big dog analytical company that is giving us the inside edge, that they believe that is the case. Again, we're not going to probably see the peek behind the curtain for what specifically information is being provided. As I mentioned, and as these articles have made clear, there's a wide range of options, but that seems to be the selling point for the Phillies specifically, that this is this all-in-one, under one umbrella, all these different options, opportunities, information, and angles that you can view for this here. And what the Phillies are directly stating here is why we want to be exclusive is we don't want any of these other guys to touch that. And sometimes in sports and in general, if you want to think about this like a player example, if you have a prospect, even if you don't believe that, he has a bright future in your specific organization, if you have them, that means no one else can. And we've certainly seen this in different situations where a team will hold on to a player, kind of just waiting for that value to mature and be ready to cash out when the moment is right. Even if they don't view that player as a long-term piece of their franchise, that at least no one else has him. It kind of feels like there's an angle of this to this Phillies situation, that they believe they have this information they don't want anyone else to see a part of. And what the pushback is from the specific organization here is they believe they can sell portions of it. As I mentioned, is a full service, full scale, that they do it all. Draft evaluations, trade evaluations, financial analysis here, that anything an organization needs, this company allegedly provides. And what seemingly happened is as the Phillies went to opt into their contract to remain with this company here, is they believe they were trying to sell parts of it to other organizations, which the Phillies are having a problem with. And that's why we're heading for a legal battle. And to continue on with this article here, it states, the case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge Cynthia M. Rule, who will weigh whether to grant a temporary restraining order. She'll consider whether the Phillies would suffer irreparable harm without such an order. Irreparable harm generally refers to the kind of harm that money damages can't remedy, meaning money can't put the plaintiff in the same position they'd be in once the harm occurs. In sports context, irreparable harm can occur if an athlete is going to miss a game, since the game will never be replayed. Another example is when trade secrets are lost and the result is a market-shifting event. The Phillies maintain they'll suffer irreparable harm since they lose the value of the exclusivity. Other teams would gain, quote, access to the same proprietary analytics capabilities, thus possibly multiplying the competitive advantage of these capabilities. The loss of that advantage, the Phillies insist, would undermine the resources they rely on when making baseball management moves and other strategic choices. Quote, the harm suffered by the Phillies, the complaint asserts, cannot be adequately remedied by monetary damages alone, as the competitive advantage secured through the division exclusivity agreement and 6-team limitations is unique and cannot be precisely quantified. So again, a lot of fancy words, a lot of legal terminology, but what this boils down to is the Phillies don't want anybody else having their same secret sauce here, that whatever they believe they got works and they don't want anybody else touching it. And this is not a money thing, to be clear. We know baseball organizations and really all sports organizations, they straight up print money at this point. This isn't something the Phillies are trying to squeeze out a little paycheck. They're trying to block other teams from having the same access that they do. Honestly, the more I read on this, I'm really curious, what is that window behind the curtain? What are these analytics that are being put in front of you? What are the services that you don't want any of these other teams to ultimately be made available to you? And what their real point are, and frankly, from a legal perspective, I've taken 2 law classes in my entire life. I'm not any sort of lawyer or anything like that here, but I do think that they have some grounds to stand on is by the legal definition that, this isn't something that can be, recovered here. That this is beyond just a monetary balance, which is the crux of the entire Phillies point. Now, to put a bow on the full report here, the final paragraph of this states, in a statement, a Teamwork spokesperson said, quote, Teamwork's intelligent, formerly zealous analytics is proud to offer analytics capabilities so differential, impactful, innovative that the Phillies have attempted to block its rivals from gaining access. While we cannot comment on the specifics of the litigation, we're confident that Teamworks is acting in compliance with the agreement. We look forward to resolving the matter, and in the meantime, we will continue delivering world-class solutions that equip organizations to make decisions that help them excel on and off the field. Teamworks and Zealous will have the chance to answer to the complaint and deny wrongdoing. They might argue that selling components in the manner they allegedly intend would not violate the contract. In addition, the defendants might provide additional context that changes how the legal arguments are evaluated. Expect them to also point out the temporary restraining orders are considered extraordinary forms of relief and necessitate a very compelling argument. Again, this is above my head here. This is not what I expected to be talking about 7 days until the season at this point in time, but it is kind of interesting to me that this is something behind the scenes. We've understood that we've seen right before our eyes kind of this metamorphosis of baseball and sports in general, leaning more into these advanced analytics, having all these different perspectives than just that guy's a good ball player there, and trying to quantify all these sports takes and beliefs and how this player can project forward here. And it does feel like the Phillies have really found this system, and this is it. I've never heard of this organization, this company, before this report dropped, but I do wonder how long this has been around and if this is something the Phillies have leaned on for quite some time. But what is crystal clear is the Phillies don't want anybody else touching it. So it will be really interesting from a legal perspective how this plays itself out. I do think the company that they're trying to keep locked under their control here, that does have a case as far as, you have the opportunity to hit the open market, create your bidding price, whatever the case. And if the Phillies are paying you $2 million, as has been reported, another team might be willing to spend or to pay you $5 million. And while, loyalty is one thing, we all understand how that all works. The bottom line is this is a business venture, and that team is, or this organization, that company is certainly vested in maximizing those profits there. So a lot of, I guess, large terminology, legal technicalities here that I have no expertise on whatsoever. Hopefully we can get it back to baseball from here, but I did think this was enough or noteworthy enough to bring up on the channel and rip a video about. So let me know what you guys think on all of this. One of the more perplexing storylines that I can remember surrounding the Phillies or any organization in sports there, but we'd love to hear if you can top that. If you got something in your mind that is more unique to this Phillies organization and kind of off the field story that does connect to the team, we'd love to hear it. If anything you think is in the same realm, drop that in the comments. As always, appreciate each and every guys tuning in, and next time we'll be talking about direct baseball content. If you missed the previous video, we do have an injury update on Taijuan Walker, which Luke Arcani did an excellent job breaking down already, so make sure to tap into that video as well. And as always, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, trying to grow this Phillies Digest family as large as possible. And as I mentioned, opening day is now right around the corner, so hit that button, drop a like on this video, drop your comments below. I'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.